How you doing, everybody? This is Robert Rivera with Who's on First, the show. We have a special guest, John, with 505 Baseball as a baseball signing.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
All right. Well, tell us about yourself.
My name is John Quick, owner, operator, and assigner for 505 Baseball Assigning. I also assign Albuquerque area high schools in the central region, varsity and sub-varsity as well. Been in baseball for about 25 years. Took an off season for about 15 years. Was in broadcasting for about 20 years. I'm about, I would say 12 years, 13 years back into baseball, 25 years total. It's a whole different thing. And now I'm in a crusade to try and save umpires and save the craft.
I saw it when I was helping my dad doing Little League in the Bronx, and it's the art of umpiring. It's starting to die. It's declining, and less people want to umpire anymore. And the increase in travel teams, and I believe some of the Little Leagues are also dying. A lot of their kids are going to travel ball. The umpires are lacking, and sometimes it's not even how much money you pay them. It's not even the money anymore. It's people don't want to do it. What do you think about that, John?
Robert, I'll give you a statistic. And thank you to Dana Pappas from the National Federation High School Association. She used to be the director of officials here in New Mexico, and she is now at a national level. And I'll tell you what, Dana Pappas is one person we want at the head chair at the national level because she looks out for the officials. So I got this information from Dana, who passed it on to one of my umpires, Rick Day, from 2018 to 2019 to 2021. The United States have seen a loss of an estimated 50,000 officials nationwide. From information sent to the National Federation High School office, they know for sure that they have lost 33,248 officials in 39 states. The estimate of 50,000 officials comes from the fact they do not have the numbers for some of the most populated states, such as California, New Jersey, New York, and Texas, as they do not track this information due to the structure of the state office and local officials association. And I will tell you, at the national level, National Federation is trying to do something and develop a toolkit, if you will, to not just, get recruitments, but retain and educate and provide a way of not just retaining the officials, but educating organizations, educating the schools. And like you said, it's not always about the pay. Now, I've posted in several forums, and there's two number one reasons why officials are quitting. And those are pretty much even. Now, one of them is, say, pay more, which we all want to get paid more at our jobs, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. But I feel the number one issue is the lack of respect and the abuse that happens when the games are going on. And that is from the fans. And that is, that fires up the coaches, or the coaches fire up the fans by arguing with umpires. And the reason being, and I'll give you an example, this past weekend in one of our tournaments, one of my umpires had a play at first base, textbook obstruction. First baseman didn't get away the runner. He impeded the runner's path. It was a banger, what we call a banger, a close play at third base. Both of my umpires at that time raised their hands, kill the play. The U1 umpire, which is the field umpire, awarded the runner third base. In his judgment, that nullified the act. Because it was such a close play at third base, his judgment was he would have made third base if he was not obstructed with that first base. And the organization sent the video, sent a long email to the tournament director. The tournament director contacted me. I then responded with a rule, and they didn't know the rule. They didn't argue the obstruction call. They argued the fact of the award of the base, and he should only gotten second base. So they weren't aware of the penalty of nullifying the act if the runner was not impeded with. This is the problem, Robert, is the lack of education that the fans, the parents, and most coaches They do not have that kind of education where all they see is what they see on TV. So what 505 baseball signing is doing is here in New Mexico, we are offering a service to organizations, and I encourage any assigning service nationwide to adapt this. But what we're doing is we're offering a service to go to organizations, and we are asking these organizations to have mandatory meetings where the parents and the fans or the family members are allowed to attend these meetings, at least one parent from the household, attend these meetings. We have a panel of 3 umpires on the panel. I will have one umpire from a high school, one umpire from college, and then another umpire from Major League Baseball that or has done professional baseball. Why do I do that, Robert? Because there's 3 different rule sets there, right? And each of those rule sets have different rules for different reasons. But if I have the experts in place on that panel to explain each of these rule sets, what does that give to the people attending? An education. And just maybe by us doing this education and this panel and this seminar, that we start on a good foot on educating the fans, and maybe they have a better understanding that these umpires work 365 days a year. They are educated, they are attending clinics, they are doing what they can do for whatever money they get paid. You know, some might argue that the travel ball tournaments pay a lot faster, pay a lot better. There's time limits and things like that. And this is why we lose officials to high school. Mm-hmm. Well, National Federation is not ignorant to these aspects. And the National Federation is looking at some of these aspects to say, what can we do to retain high school officials? And this is why I have committed to the National Federation, Dana Pappas, and I'll tell you, I want to be a part of this process. I want to be a part of this process because I think if we can have our group leaders, our association leaders attending school seminars, and these schools have, if your kid's playing baseball, then the baseball parents must attend these seminars and get educated on what they see on that field. Not only do we want to provide an education, but we want to answer questions. We want to be able to answer the questions that they see, these weird plays, whatever the case might be. And for the people listening out there, you got to understand, all these umpires are amateurs. We are not professional umpires. We are not Major League Baseball umpires. We don't umpire in the minor leagues. We're talking about these guys that work 9-to-5 jobs and then or 7-to-3 jobs, or asking their boss to take an afternoon off so they can go umpire your kid on a baseball game. Yep. So therefore, they're working 12 hours a day, and half of that day is for your child. And we just have to have a better understanding, a better respect, and a better sense of knowledge about the game of baseball in this aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I've been that guy. You know, I worked my job, worked 8 hours. Hurried up, finished up my job in 8 hours, and then ran out of my job to go umpire a game, an hour later, an hour and a half later, to go make $40, where I could have stood at work and made 2 hours overtime, and to go make $40. But for me, it was more of a love thing. It's not so much the money, but then you get there and, guys giving you a hard time about a call. They're giving you a hard time about a strike. They want to argue with you at the end of the game. They argue with you during the game. And sometimes it's a little defeating, but as umpires, we got to be mentally tough. We have to be correct all the time. We have to be in the right positions. And you're absolutely right. And I started seeing this back when my dad started umpiring, where when we were little league, where you'd see parents come and drop off their kid, and then, the dads would take off, and then they would come back in the second inning. Why? Because we used to pull umpires out of the stands. Hey, you want to umpire? You want to umpire? Want to umpire? Because we didn't have umpires. We didn't pay umpires. And you're starting to see it now where umpires, okay, we'll pay you $25, $30. And for me, that's how I started umpiring. I would help my dad because I'd see my dad. He'd coach my brother in the morning. He'd do a clinic. And then in the, late afternoon, oh, nobody's there to umpire. He'd go umpire. You know what, Dad? I go umpire the bases for you so you don't have to run around. and that's how I got into it at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Got into the umpiring, and then I figured out, hey, you know what? I can make a couple bucks. $20 a game, $25 a game. And to me, it kept me close to the game, and it was fun. But it gets to that point where it's not fun anymore, and you wind up getting into arguments and actually getting confronted by people in the field and in the parking lot. I've been confronted in parking lots.
Well, that was my next point, Robert, is football officials most of them have locker rooms. Basketball officials typically have an office or a locker room that they can be secluded away from the crowd after the game. Baseball officials, we have the largest locker room in the world. It's the parking lot, but it's exposed. Then we have fans coming up to us during the times we're changing. This is our own time. The game is done. We have fans coming up to us. I mean, there's times where we've been in intense games, and I just told my partner in his gear, get in your car, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts and change over there, or whatever the case might be.
Yep.
Just for our own safety. Part of this too is the administration at these schools. Administrations have to do a better job to staff and not be afraid to approach a Ruly fan. We see them have administration on duty, but we also see that administration just sitting in a chair, and we hear all this ruckus in the stands behind us. There's times I'm working the plate and I'll just glance over to the administration. Hey, are you going to do something? And they're not doing anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
We need a strong administration. And this is what the National Federation is hoping to do with schools nationwide, get a strong administration that is going to take care of the fans. We have enough to worry about on the field.
Right.
We should not have to worry about what's behind us outside the fences.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the schools worrying about that. And folks, I'm not saying, oh, that's a bad call. You have every right to voice your opinion. That's a bad call. Oh, Blue, that was low, or Blue, that wasn't a strike. We're fine about that. But when you continue that discussion inning after inning after inning after inning, all the way up to the end of the game, and screaming and yelling profanities, that's where it's over the line. And I think we have to provide a guideline to the administration. It's fine that they say that call sucks. It's fine that they say that we blew that call. We understand that's a part of the game. But what we don't understand is the abuse a part of it. And a part of that abuse is repeating their displeasures because they think that we don't hear them. So they want to get louder and they want to do more and they want to say more because they're not getting the response that they want.
Right.
And typically, if I have to turn around and give you a response, my only response is you're leaving the game.
I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, I've been in that situations, where you're sitting there going, come on, guys, enough's enough. And folks, we're not talking about umpires being crying here. We're not, the umpires getting their feelings hurt. You got to let somebody do their job. You know what I mean? And it's their call. They're put in that situation to do that job. And they've been trained, especially in high school. They've taken a test. They've been trained. They should know what they're doing, and they're human. And I always refer back to Jim Joyce, one of the best major league umpires ever. And he is known for that one blown call in a
perfect game.
Perfect game in that 2015.
And what did that guy do the next day?
And yeah,
he made sure. And that pitcher was the captain of that day, next day, and was at home plate, and they squashed it.
Yep. He apologized, and it was over with. He made the call, and he had to stick with his call, and it was one of those type of deals. And it happens. We've all had that where you're like, holy smoke, I did kick that call, and I've done it. Nobody is perfect. I get it. I understand. And I've kicked the call, and I had to apologize.
I've kicked plenty of calls.
Yeah. I
25 years. And here's the thing, Robert. What people have to understand too is we are our own worst critic when we kick a call.
Yeah.
It will eat us up the whole night. We get home and we're having a beer or whatever, or we're having a beverage, and we're sitting in that chair and you're just like, oh man, I kicked that hell out of that call.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I am still kicking myself from a call It wasn't even a call. It was about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was doing a men's league, and they hit a bullet at the pitcher. And I was in the C position, and the ball hit the side of the mound and came at me. Well, I'm a big boy, so my vertical is not really vertical. So I went up, and I tried to get it up from underneath me. And man, if that sucker didn't hit the back of my heel and my right foot and went towards third base. And there was bases loaded, and I had to call time and award the bases. And they were freaking out. No way, boo. I said, guys, it hit me. And they said, no, you can't. I listen, I don't want to. I don't want, until this day, I'm still mad. Because when I went to umpire school, we were told if you're struck by the ball, the ball dies if you're in front of the player. If you're behind the player, then the ball's still alive. It's a live ball. Right. It's a live ball. Well, I was in front, and it hit me in the bottom of my heel and my right foot, and I was so upset that I actually had to award a run and still load the bases. That's one that really, really sticks in my mind. But I mean, I've seen this coming for, like I said, about 20 years, easily, where the umpires are disappearing. And then it was the money. Hey, I want $65 a game instead of $45 a game. I want an extra $5 to do the plate, and it came to that point. Hey, all right, if you do the plate, we'll give you an extra $5 or an extra $10. And if you do the bases, then you get $10 left. So because then people didn't want to do the plate.
So, what? I prefer the plate.
Oh, listen, any good umpire, but I've had my umpire, partners that are, in their 60s and 70s. And, it takes a toll on them. So the older guys, if they want to do the bases, no problem. But I like the plate. I'll take the plate all the time. I love it. I'll eat it up. But I've been put at the rocking chair, and it wasn't such a rocking chair. We'll talk about that one. But it's one of those deals where if you're a good umpire, you always want the plate. But, you always get some of those guys that, hey, I'd rather not do the plate. And they would give you $10 extra. So that way there was an incentive to do the plate. Especially now that I'm starting to see, especially with the COVID, the last couple of years, people have disappeared. Guys are, I'll be there, and then they don't show up. It started to do it when I started assigning baseball, and it's just getting progressively worse. I've talked to people from New York that have their own association, the Big Apple Umpires. It's the same thing, the training program. He's trying to keep guys, and some guys are there for a couple of months and then disappear. You get men's league guys, 24, 25-year-olds, you get 6 or 7 of them guys surrounding you. And here you are 50, 60 years old, and you're facing 7 guys with baseball bats. What do you do in these situations? And that's what I'm starting to see. It's popping up. And the rise of travel baseball.
The most famous saying from coaches and from fans here in New Mexico, when I moved here about 3.5 years ago, the most famous saying when they don't like what they hear and they get ejected from the game, I'll see you in a parking lot. I have yet to see a coach in a parking lot. I have yet to see a fan in a parking lot when I leave. But that seems to be the most famous saying. It seems to be the most thing that they think they can intimidate somebody with. I will give this number out there too. The average age in baseball, at least that I know, the average age of an umpire nationwide is 56 years old. That's an issue. This is where we need to bring in the youth. We need to start asking our high school players during the summertime, do they want to make a little bit of money? Do they want to umpire? I'm big on that with 505 Baseball LLC, 505baseball.com. We encourage, I have two people right now. It's 14 years old. I have them working 9U, 10U, 11U, 12U, but it gets them started. Right? It gets them started where when they turn 16, I want to say to them, hey, I'd like to put you on a freshman game. They're like, really? I can umpire at 16 in high school? Here in New Mexico, you can.
Wow.
Yeah. And I encourage any umpire that's watching this right now, you feel there's a problem, get involved. That is the only way we're going to change the landscape, is if we get involved with our state associations, with our regular associations, our local associations, and get involved. That's the only way we're going to make a change. And that is the only way things are going to get better. If we just ignore it and get on social media, and you're one of those keyboard warriors out there that say, oh, I need more money, pay me more, pay me more. It's just not going to happen with you just sitting on your butts
Mhm.
get involved and encourage change and encourage more pay, you
Right.
know? Um,
Well, I also tell guys, listen, don't be afraid and be approachable about it. You know what I mean? Because you get a lot of guys that just they don't want to talk to you. Get out of my face.
right,
I made
right.
the call or whatever. Be approachable. You
Yeah,
know, you can
exactly.
diffuse a lot of situations, and I did that in a college game, and he was surprised. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "I said I'm sorry, but I was out of position. I got blocked out, and I gave you my best judgment." And he's just looking at me. He goes, "Is that what you're going to go with?" I said, "That's the truth. It's what I can give you." And, I said, "I saw the ball beat your runner. And in my judgment, I think he's out." All the dust came up and they were both looking at me. And I'm like, I said, at that point, now I got to guess because I wound up on the side of it instead of in between it.
You go back to that whole kick in the call thing, and a lot of times you knew right away, I kicked the hell out of that thing, and the coach comes out at you, and you're just saying, well, coach, this is what I have. This is what I judge it to be. And he's still going at you. He goes, and then that's where you just kind of get closer. Coach, you have 30 seconds, and then we need to squash this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
And they
yeah.
understand what you're saying there.
Okay.
Without saying you kicked it, when you give them that time, okay, coach, you have 30 seconds or 20 seconds, whatever the case might be, and then we need to squash this.
Right, right. Right. I mean, it's a simple thing as being approachable. It's a simple thing as, getting the president of the league involved and say, hey, listen, I need to clear people out from behind here. This is getting dangerous. They're yelling at me from behind the dugout there behind home plate. We need to clear that out if you're getting too many of those parents.
It goes right back to administration, right? Outside the gates, that's who we need to have controlling that. We shouldn't have to turn around and ask them to do that.
Right.
They should have the power and the knowledge when they hear the repetitive of the argument that to say, okay, you guys need to either settle down or we're going to ask you to leave.
Yep. Well, lucky for us down here in Florida, if you try to intimidate an official, you could be charged with a felony. Yep. They will hit you with a felony.
In a lot of states, an assault with an official, no matter what kind of official it is, an assault on an official. So if you just want to slap or you spit on an official or you kick something at an official, if that official decides they want to press charges, that you're going to be charged with a felony. Period.
Absolutely. I was talking to my 17-year-old son. He's like, I wouldn't want to be an umpire, Dad. He's like, why? He goes, nah, it's just too much stress. They stress you out.
That a lot.
And I'm like, wow, you hear it a lot. But I love the game so much that I wanted to stay close to the game and did my umpiring all over. I met a lot more people, went to a lot of different places, ate some pretty good food. But
I will say this: leadership is probably the most important thing in any state, any local association.
Right.
And I really need to give a shout out here in New Mexico. Currently, we have new leadership heading up the NMAA here. Zach Stevenson and Dylan Metzgard doing a wonderful job. Some big shoes to fill. As I mentioned, Dana Pappas moved on to the national level for the officials at the National Federation High School office. Nate Acosta, who's a Division I basketball official, but was Dana's assistant. Those two people, when I moved to New Mexico, inspired me so much when I moved here. I moved from Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, the assigners, pretty much every assigner is an LLC, and they bid for contracts for the schools, and they then assign the schools. Well, here in New Mexico, the NMAA, the state association, hires the assigners for each region, and I happen to be the assigner for the Central region. And when I came here, under the guidance of a really good brother of mine, Hector Martinez, I was inspired. I was impressed by how New Mexico was treating their officials, backing their decisions. And Dana Pappas was the head of that. And she did a terrific job. That is why now she's gone out of the state, but she's on a national level, and I'm in contact with her on a constant basis. They're going to be developing, this consortium that's going to be taking place in April, and, developing this toolkit and everything else. So there's several aspects that I'm concentrating on. One is recruitment. 2 is mentorship. 3 is education. And 4 is retainment. So those are the 4 aspects I am committed to, not only as the owner and operator of 505 Baseball LLC, but as the assigner of the NMAA with high schools. and anything I can do with my leadership, because I can't do anything with the people that's in front of me, that's helping me. And I have a great group of people surrounded. I have great brothers and sisters as umpires that work hard for me. Without these people, I can't complete those 4 aspects here in New Mexico. And I encourage everybody around this country that's watching this show right now that you need to be involved, and you need to take on maybe one of those 4 aspects, all 4 of those aspects, whatever the case might be. You know, I've mentored 2 individuals, one here in New Mexico and one in Wisconsin. Kevin Schultz is now working in the minor league baseball system. I inspired a young man by the name of Tim Barreras here in New Mexico. He went to pro school last year, graduated. His first year went on to the advanced course. And now he's just waiting to get a call for a job. He has the look, he has the skills. And that is one thing we are committed here in New Mexico is advancement. Now, 505 Baseball LLC is a company that we want to concentrate on high school umpires and below, and concentrate on training that and mentoring that, retaining that. At that point, once I complete you at a varsity high school umpire and you want to move on in order to improve yourself at the collegiate level, at the professional level, if you even want to move on, right, we will help you retain that information and help you get to that next level.
Right. It's funny because I did the show with Wendell Stats. I never saw anybody ever come to see the umpires. I met the gentleman from Perfect Game. He's based out of Atlanta, and he came up to talk to umpires because he's the same thing. He's lacking umpires. He's got plenty of teams. I'll give you all the games you want. I mean, you can make
and Perfect Game pays really well.
And you know what? He's putting people up.
Yes.
So he'll put you up in a hotel in Atlanta. You'll be sitting there. Man, you can make a decent paycheck.
Last year, we had 2 games from Perfect Game here in New Mexico, and same thing. He paid for all the hotels for any umpires that, you know, I have a policy. Any umpires that drive more than 90 minutes away from home to come and umpire a game, we put them up in a hotel.
Scott Harris that I met there at Perfect Game, he's giving you an opportunity to go to Perfect Game. He will develop you as an umpire. You can come back next year, have that under your belt, come back to umpire school, and then in a year or 2, wind up in the minor leagues. So he's giving you that, what do they call it? The skill set to come back to pro school. And it's the first time I ever seen anything like that. So once I saw that, this whole thing of where the umpires nowadays, it's starting to click now. You know, umpires are just disappearing. Now I see a lot of women stepping up also. That was another thing. Back in the day, I think I've umpired with one female official. She was excellent. Never had a problem.
Here in New Mexico, we have a varsity in Las Cruces, New Mexico. She's the varsity assigner. She works for me sometimes for 505 for the tournaments in the summer. Right. And she's a very good official.
But the disappearing of umpires, I'm starting to understand it. I'm starting to see it. And it's something that we need to nip in the bud. I had my own association in Pennsylvania, the Northern Valley Umpires, and my partner was Jimmy Vicola, and he was a Jim Evans graduate, and I was a Wendelstadt graduate, and we combined forces, and we had our own association. We had about 60 guys under our belt at one time, and we gave a clinic to try to recruit more umpires. Well, we had a guy come down for the newspaper, and he wanted to know, you know, the ins and outs of umpiring. What we did, we gave him a mask, we put him behind the plate, and, you know, we gave him a quick little lesson. This is a strike, this is a ball, and this is how you call it. Okay.
Yeah. You bring up Jim Evans. Jim Evans is a very good friend of mine. And I remember Jim doing something with ESPN with the science of umpiring.
Yeah.
If you remember that. And Jim got all over that reporter. You know, that reporter had a mask on, had a ball coming on the outside corner. And he's like, make the call. What is it? Make the call. You know, there's a ball or there's a strike. You can't just stand there and look at me. Make a call. You know? And so he gave the guy a taste of what it will look like.
That's exactly what I wound up doing. We were putting some pressure on him, you know. Well, anyway, listen, thank you for being on, John, and I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
They can visit the website, 505baseball.com, 505baseball assigning@gmail.com. Certainly reach out if you're in the New Mexico area, you're in the surrounding, you're in Arizona, Utah, Texas, whatever the case might be, and you want to come and umpire in Albuquerque. We have Triple Crown, Texas Pathway, Perfect Game. All these companies are coming through Albuquerque, and I assign them. So come on through. We'd love to have you. And again, any organizations out there that in New Mexico that want us to come and do a seminar, we'd love to have you. I encourage nationwide state associations, organizations, you do a travel ball. If you're assigning travel ball, offer the same service and provide a panel in order to educate the fans and educate the coaches.
Okay, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I wish you luck. And as we always say here, keep on swinging. Thank you.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right? You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. It'll ding you when I put something else on, all right?